Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing today? So previously, as you can see in stream chat, are you echoing? No, you're echoing. In stream chat, the upload failed for the video last night, which is nice. It's very nice. I'm now going to be using the export button on that's actually within Twitch to see if that works. Although I clicked it, I told it to export. I don't see any like loading or anything, so I don't even know. I don't even know. Is it gonna work? Am I gonna like show up 4 hours later again and then it's gonna be there now? We'll figure it out. Either that or Hector can be our official YouTube uploader. Sog, you're looking at the wrong channel. That's Hector's. Check the video title of the picture I posted and the video title of the picture you posted. Also the profile picture of the channel on the video you posted. Well, if I can export them directly from my video producer on Twitch, that'd probably be quicker. Because I mean, I download them locally just to have them. Ah, yes. But then I was like, oh, let me just upload the video I already have downloaded. Well, clearly that was not the best way to do it. Alright, well I said at the end of, or toward the end of last stream, Wolfie says, "Oh my god, I'm about to be the Nigerian prince. Who added this?" I forget, but I do remember that mission. So I said toward the end of last time I have like 25 pull quests that we can look at. I have pared that down to, I believe, 15. Some of them I actually already looked at last night. Some of them we even looked at yesterday, but just needed to follow up on. But otherwise, it's pretty nice. I got rid of all the big ones, so we're not going to look at anything like super massive. I think the largest here is, let me see, 397 line additions with 75 subtractions. That's the biggest. There were a couple that were like 600, 800, 1,000 lines, and I was like, I don't think we'll have time for that. But, I mean, if we get through 14 today, that'll be pretty nice. So, shit, that still exists. I forgot I had the display capture still. Get rid of you. No one can see that. Ferocious says various typos. Plus 100, or no, 11,902 minus 11,063. All right. Let's see, where should we start? Let me start with what's approved. So there's some stuff I already approved, I just didn't merge. Or that was approved by Warp and he didn't merge still. We're now once again going to sit and wait for Warp Core to merge this pull request. And if he once again says, I'm on my phone, it's bullshit. Find a laptop. The other things I have are, I looked at Sam's mineable mapping with asteroid scanners. And I gave this a +1 and an approval. The only issue really was just this comment. And what else? I took a look at this inaccuracy one, and I approved it, but I wasn't too sure on merging it just at the time. I don't know if we want extra eyes on this, because this is one that Talents was taking a look at. And as best I can tell, his requests have been fulfilled. And I know there was a concern over performance. As I say here, since performance was in question, I tested a weapon which fired 1,000 submunitions per frame, using each of the inaccuracy types, and witnessed no significant difference in CPU usage across the types, bouncing around 27 to 32% CPU usage with a base of 1 to 2% when not firing. So it seems like he said he's not on his phone today, so we can watch it. Damn, it already happened. Didn't even have it on screen. He robbed us of the moment. Warp is the true villain. In any case. You can't watch it now. Do it again. Ferocious says, glad to hear the performance isn't an issue. Yes, yes. But yeah, so do we merge it? Do we merge it now? So if you're not aware of what this is, currently the way that we calculate inaccuracy of a weapon, we do one random call minus a second random call. And what this does is it creates a triangular like distribution of where things can go. Technically, you're twice as likely to hit an angle of 0 compared to the stuff to the left and the right, but when you're talking about a whole range of angles, your actual likelihood of witnessing that is low. It's not like you would even notice it anyway. Warp asks, does this pull request affect the default behavior when not specifying the distribution? No, it does not. So we can actually check that. I did confirm this. If we go down to weapon, the default inaccuracy distribution is triangular, which is what it already is now. So if we go to distribution, triangular, and then if somehow you have nothing defined, it is still also triangular. But the additional inaccuracy types are... Hold on, what the fuck? Why does this say distribution type and these ones just say type? We can probably knock this off, right? You know what, I'll do that locally real quick. But, yeah, so we have a uniform distribution, which well, it's uniform. Every point is equally as likely to be chosen within the range of inaccuracy. But then we also have 3 different normal distributions that you can use. Wide, narrow, and what the hell's the last one? Medium. I wasn't looking at the screen. I'm trying to find the distribution file here. And admittedly, I couldn't tell a difference between wide and uniform. And that was with 180 degrees of inaccuracy. Or rather, a 90 inaccuracy, which gives you a 180 degree like throw of inaccuracy, where the projectiles could travel. Let's see if this fucks up the stream if I try to compile something at the same time. Because if this works, I'm just going to make this change. But what narrow, wide, and the fucking middle one do is, like I said, it's normal distribution, but it's just what is the standard deviation of this normal distribution. Although not exactly. I'm not sure why it was done the way it was. So if we scroll up here, so if you have one of these normal distributions, it goes into this manipulate normal function, which calls normal with a smoothness. I don't know why it's called smoothness. This is your inaccuracy input. I should probably change that name too to make it make more sense. Because this isn't smoothness. This is the inaccuracy value you give it. This is your mean. Where is your mean inaccuracy? This first value is the standard deviation. If I am correct in that. Oh wait, no, it's not. Okay, I have that reversed. Why the hell's the... Okay, whatever. For some reason, the mean is 0.5 and the smoothness is... There's some magic going on here to make it fit, though. I think that's why. I think that's why this was done. So we get a normal value with a mean of 0.5 and a standard deviation of whatever your input is. We subtract off the whole number from it. If it's less than 0, we add 1 so that it's somewhere between 0 and 1. If you have the inverted key, then it inverts it by, if the random factor is greater than 0.5, we subtract 0.5. If it's less than 0.5, we add 0.5. Not exactly sure how that's helping, but I mean, it looked like it worked. Then we expand the range from 0 to 1 to negative 1 to 1 by multiplying by 2 and subtracting 1. Then that gets us some value that we end up using. Actually, no. Hold on. This is the smoothness table. Where the hell does the inaccuracy come in? Okay, I was wrong. This is your... This determines narrow, wide, or medium. That's your standard deviation. Your angle, your input inaccuracy, is multiplied by whatever this output is. Okay, that makes more sense to me. Alright, yeah. So this is a normal distribution between negative 1 and 1 is what this is creating. Because I think normally this gives you some value between 0 and 1. Yeah, I think I see what's happening here. All this is to chop off the edges, I think. Well, maybe like, yeah. This is chopping off the edges so that you don't have random projectiles that have, like, crazy inaccuracies that they shouldn't have given the input you gave it. So yeah, this is all bounding your normal distribution within that range, and then we just multiply it by whatever our inaccuracy value is. Alright, yeah, that makes sense now. Also compiles, so let me make some. I'm just gonna make some other tweaks locally. I mean, if there are any other tweaks. One thing that I do want to change, now that I'm thinking about it. Let me switch over to Notepad. Hector says, quote, "I don't know what this is doing, but it does some shit and it seems to work." That's how it is sometimes. First says, if you don't know what it's doing, it probably needs comments. I mean, there are comments here. I just wasn't reading them. Alright. Weapon. I want to change how this is done. This is a little goofy. It requires the inverted as first. But I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is... there's other places where we do something similar to this. Anyway, so I guess to explain what's happening here. This is saying that you can define inaccuracy like this. Inaccuracy, some value. Indent under that, you can give your distribution type. So, triangular or uniform. Or if you do like narrow, medium, or wide, you can choose to also do it inverted. But you have to say inverted narrow. You can't say narrow inverted. It stops you from doing that. I think that's stupid. You should be able to define them in either order, because that's typically what we do elsewhere. And I believe it's in ship that we... Yeah, right here. Engine side and steering facing. You don't have to define the side, then the facing. Or the steering direction. You can do them in either order. So, this is what we would do for that. Because I'll copy this code over. I'll like comment it. That's usually what I do. And then just like copy off of it. So yeah, grand key is not going to matter here. So what we're doing is for... for unsigned. Zero, J is less than grand.size is probably what we want here. Actually, I don't know. Oh no, this is not exactly the same thing. But whatever. I mean, what I'm trying to do will also work. So iterate over all of the keys. Let's say like const string token. Unless token is used somewhere else. I don't think it is. Equals grand dot token J. Right? And I think we slap this in there. Maybe changing some. So yeah, this doesn't need to be like this anymore. These all can just become token. So that way you can find them in either order. Or on different lines even, if you wanted to. We will, of course, compile this and confirm that it works. Damn it. Hola, this is sure. Benny says missing breakfast for this stream. Heck. Go and eat something. How? I mean, can you not eat and watch at the same time? Benny says, but then I have to go to chapel service, and Hector says worship Derpy. Then that would be blasphemous. Benny says I could just skip chapel. There are consequences, though, as there should be. Alright, it's working. Let's go. Changing it this way also means that if for some reason you just say inaccuracy, triangular, uniform, narrow, medium, wide, it just takes whatever the last one you gave it was. This is also be unknown because now you can't have an incomplete. Alright. I think I might have deleted the... Oh yeah, I did. I gotta remake the weapon I was using to test this. Give me another moment here. Human, weapons. I like to test with the proton gun. Whenever I'm dealing with submunitions. Just crank it up to 1,000 down here, call this 90. And I'll make no change so that we can see that the default is the same. Alright. It's a whole mix. How the hell did I get... What the fuck? I was in the middle of a playlist and the playlist just ended. Or not even ended, I was still in the middle of the playlist and it sent me to a different song. Like, not in the playlist. That was like a completely different channel. What the hell? I've had that happen before a couple of times. Like, I don't click anything and then the playlist just, like, gets kicked off. It's like, what the hell, YouTube? Do you wanna... Oh yeah, I gotta change it because the executable is different. There we go. Hector asks, are you in a prison? Because Benny said, breakfast is in another building and I can't bring my laptop there. Benny says, you could say so, I'm in a boarding school. Hector says, my condolences. Alright. Hold on. I gotta change this weapon up a bit still. Reload of 1, no firing cost. That's how you get what you want. Alright. So here is triangular inaccuracy. As you can see, it's a lot denser toward the middle, and once you get off toward the edges, you see a lot less projectiles. Now if I close the game and change the inaccuracy to uniform, so just down here, uniform, and then relaunch the game. New human weapon? Maybe. Would you look at that? It is, in fact, uniform. Or at least I can't notice any difference. Maybe like at the very edges here, but that's probably just because there's nothing to the left or right of it. Makes it look less dense than it actually is. Whee! Alright. Now, let's change it to narrow. Just not gonna bother changing the screen. You know what it's gonna look like. This is narrow. So there are still projectiles that are going to fly off at a 90-degree angle here. But there's very few of them, given the standard deviation. Now let's do inverted narrow. And I think what I'll do is I'll type narrow inverted just to see if that did properly make that work. Ferocious says seems uniform to me. Say hello to inverted narrow. Almost nothing in the middle, and then almost everything off to the sides. Inverted seems to take more CPU, which seems weird to me because it's just a single extra like if statement. Actually, I don't know. I wasn't even looking at the CPU before. Maybe it's reading higher CPU usage because I'm streaming at the same time. Let me go back to triangular and see if it's any different. It was like 40%. Hovering around there. When I was testing this, like I said, it was more around 30%. But having other stuff running can change that. Okay, it's the same. So it's just because I'm streaming at the same time. Alright, let's do medium, and then inverted medium. So this is medium. It's not as pronounced as you would expect, but you can definitely tell that there's still more toward the center here. But it's also not the same as triangular, because I think with triangular there was more, or there was less at the edges than there is with this. So then let's try out the inverted medium. See if that does anything for us. That's definitely noticeable. Alright. Now for this last one, I'm gonna crank up the inaccuracy to 180 and start with uniform. Because when I tested wide earlier, I couldn't tell the difference between wide and uniform. Which I guess makes sense because it's going to be more and more spread out as you use the different normal distribution inaccuracies. But I imagine you should be able to tell if you have a full 360 degrees. So this is uniform. And that does, in fact, look pretty uniform to me. Alright. Now we'll do wide. Let's see what we get. New AoE weapon just dropped. Okay, let's see. We might need more projectiles. It does feel brighter toward the top, the forward direction here. But I can crank up the number of projectiles and see if that helps. I'm at 1,000 now. What should we do? Like 2,500? Let's see. Kill the game, but yeah, first it says I do see a slight forward bias, which is very slight. Yeah, that's why I was saying like at the 180 degrees. Yeah, it's very slight, but I feel like it's somewhat noticeable. I don't know. Let's see what happens if we invert it. Okay, yeah, now there's definitely a backwards bias. I feel like I notice it more now, after inverting it. Probably, like, effectively indistinguishable from uniform, given any, like, real inaccuracy values that you give it. But, I mean, the option is there. Maybe you could argue that we should be able to change the standard deviations being used. Perhaps. I'm going to switch back to the browser here. Ferocious says, yeah, I can see the bias with my pattern-seeking brain. Hector Emmett says, I'm going to be honest, I don't see a bias. Do one without telling us if it's inverted or not and see if we can tell which it is. If we can, there's definitely a bias. Alright. Tippity-tap. I'll mute my mic so you can't hear me typing. Facing in this direction, toward the wormhole. Can you tell if it's inverted or not? Great Dangus says forward. Sog says yep, forward. Ferocious says that is wide with no inversion. Correct. That is in fact wide with no inversion. What are you even testing this for? What, did you step out? I'm testing the wide inaccuracy. Hector says, I'm satisfied with this blind trial. Okay. So it is, in fact, not just a copy of Uniform. Alright. I think this is good then. Just want to make those 2 tweaks I had. Allow the tokens to be defined in any order. I'll push that up. I've approved my own changes. There's a C review button. That feels new. From May. But the most recent review was from also May. Was that 10 months? It's been a hot minute. Some of the checks were not successful. Oh, it's probably going to be updated. Or I fucked up. Trailing white space. Oh, I always do that. Alright. Ferocious says, I've investigated myself and found no wrongdoing. True. While those checks run, we'll hop over to this one. Now, this is one that Touch did not review, I believe. Actually, he did review, but he didn't say, like, requesting changes. Although he did give it a thumbs down. So what this does, or I guess to explain what's happening right now, you're able to map where certain minables are located in systems. If you mine a mineable and then harvest it, then that will mark those minables on your map when using the outfitter key, which is very strange. So if you go to the outfitter key, scroll all the way down to the mineable section, or whatever it's called. Minerals, I believe. Then there you can find minables that aren't sold, but if you click on them, it'll highlight the systems that those ores can be found in. This changes how that mapping is done. Because right now what that means is that you need to actually mine the thing in the system in order to map it. When you could very easily just like look at it and be like, oh, I see that there are minables here. Now it looks like there's also a way to map if you target the asteroids. But what this does is make it so that just being near the asteroids when you have an asteroid scanner is enough to mark them as seen. There is a bit of randomness to it. You won't instantly map it as soon as you fly past it. You have to first pass this 1 in 20 attempt and then this 1 in 10 attempt, which I think I was running the numbers earlier. It's about like every 4 seconds it'll successfully map an asteroid. Hector says, I feel you should at least need to target the asteroid. Well, you could, but you can no longer. So I guess looking at this comment, we could re-add this, because this is not a guarantee. This is only if it is randomly seen. Although, I feel like this could be done slightly better, but I mean, the way it is nice. Sog says, yeah, I agree. Agree in terms of targeting. Hector says, so you can't just map every system passively by flying around with a scanner. Sog says, or at least differentiate between, or based on scanning type. Have better or worse asteroid scanners, more mineable content, question mark. Ferocious says, I'd say targeting asteroid with an asteroid scanner should immediately catalog it, otherwise not sure. So it sounds like we should at least keep this. So I'll just make a suggestion then. Doink, doink. Oh, hey. Styling with Markdown is supported. Thank you. I don't know why that copied into... into my clipboard, but okay. Auto-cataloging is random, so we should at least keep the guaranteed method of cataloging. Hector says, mining should catalog with or without a scanner. Targeting should catalog with a scanner. Those should be the only ways to catalog. Sogs, I think the passive catalog would be cool as another type of scanner, maybe. And Sog says, it depends on how many eccentricities we want to add to mining. And Hector says, at least barring a totally separate scanner like Sog mentions. Now that's somewhat what I said. So let's, I guess, scroll through the history here. So Houch says, I don't particularly like this mechanics change. Quoting, Sam, this helps enable mining-based missions by allowing a player to passively map and later accept missions for minables. Houch says this is a red herring. Any such mission can just tell the player where they can go, using a waypoint or flavor text. The scan range restriction feels pretty meaningless. Almost all minables are within the same zone as planets and jump zones, so we're rewarding just taking off and waiting rather than active flying. I don't really agree with the high-frequency randoms either. Use statistics and make a single call with the relevant period. Then there was the question, why remove this? Which we just looked at. And this was... So we're actually tracking what we've seen, what we've auto-cataloged by the name of what's there. Sam did say open to suggestions. I wasn't sure how to track it, just that it needs to be tracked to disable cataloging when it is complete. If there's 2 gold asteroids in the system, will there be will they be guaranteed to have the same pointer? If so, we should switch to pointer. If not, the name is necessary to know when scanning needs to stop. They would have different pointers since they were different objects, says Quick. Jahouch said, I know mining is done outside missions. I was calling out that this change to game mechanics is not the primary way that a mission should be, or would be expected to assist the player in locating the relevant resources. That is, we could have mining-based missions without it. I think I would prefer to address the originating issue as a map layer that reflects which systems you've been in to have any minables at all. After all, you don't need an asteroid scanner to notice a mineable right in front of you. That would maintain the mystery of exactly what is in a given system until you've gone and explicitly found it, while easing the how do I get started doing this factor. Then we talk about how minables are currently located in the outfitter key, which is very strange. Sam says, how much mining do you do in gameplay? I do most of my gameplay with mining as a part. I install plugins and have a group of people on Discord who have added mining missions. Knowing where to get the right minables can be a chore. It doesn't add to the mystery of gameplay in my and others' opinions or experience. This would be a significant quality of life change for mining. Unfortunately, vanilla mining isn't good gameplay. It would significantly improve mining-focused missions having played plugins which add lots of mining missions. It's not as simple as telling the player to go there to get it. And I guess here's an example of a mission. Also worth noting, continuous, how we now have jump arrival distances. So jumping through without flying around means the system isn't necessarily mapped if there's only a single asteroid scanner. The range limit affects mapping while traveling. Todd says, quoting, you don't need an asteroid scanner to notice mineable right in front of you. Hell no. Veterans who played before minables were a thing, of course the minables will easily look out of place for us. For people playing after minables were a thing, it's just another random asteroid to them until they figure out this specific one can be blown up and it drops something. Even from in-game character perspective, it's just another rock until you either mine it or scan it. Asteroid scanner is quite expensive for early game, where it helps the most. Well into maybe I should save up a bit more and get a shuttle to do jobs. It should be more useful, or it could be more useful than just auto-aim, but for rocks, and help you survey the systems for where to mine. I guess if you really hate the level of convenience, maybe you have to target it to catalog it, but I guess that's just spamming R wherever you go. Though that too will save this, or that'll still save the chore of going back there to find out if it's actually something valuable or just silicon. So I said I agree with Tahouch on this point. The scan range restriction feels pretty meaningless. Almost all minables are going to be within where you're already at. If we're going to allow getting near a asteroid with a scanner to be enough to mark it as seen, it'd be much simpler to just allow entering a system with an asteroid scanner to mark all asteroid types in the system. I think we could go a bit more interesting with this though, because as Itchaz pointed out, well, I think minables shouldn't be in the outfitters, at least not as a means of seeing where they are mined. The current means of determining which systems have which asteroids is very opaque. The outfitter map is normally used for determining which systems have planets that sell outfits, but then for minables it becomes a matter of which systems have asteroids of that type. As such, I think a better approach would be to do what the Houch suggests. I think I would prefer to address the originating issue, a map layer. With the new map key, we could not only display which systems have any minables, with the key perhaps also giving a sense of the asteroid count, but also have a way of determining which systems have asteroids of a different type, or of different types, meaning moving the minables from the outfitter key to this new key. Such information could also include which systems you know have minables, but that you haven't determined what types of minables yet, akin to the visited key that tells you which systems have planets, and of those planets, or of those systems with planets, which ones you visited. So really, this map layer could have the following two keys. Doesn't have minables, has minables but you have discovered them all, and has minables and you've discovered them all. Selecting a specific minable tells you in which systems those minables appear with no extra information. Then have a colored scale of how many minables a system has. Think of this like the trade scale, or the trade key. Selecting a specific minable tells you that minable, or the systems that minable appears in and how many of that minable appears. Now, I do realize that these two are kind of redundant. Why would I click on a mineable to tell where it is but not know how many there are? when I could go to the other key and see the exact same information of where it is, plus how many there are. So I think you could probably collapse these two somehow. Just so we don't have to juggle more keys. So I said all this would solve the problem of current mineable information being difficult to find as a result of the map key being explicit, and reduce the tedium of locating where asteroids are as a result of giving the player some asteroid information for free, while still leaving some of the information as an exercise for the player to find through exploring, as a result of not essentially giving the player 100% of the information for free, with the specifics of types of asteroids are in which system still requiring the player to quote-unquote scan them manually. Sam said, analogy to this quality of life feature. If trading was like mining, you would have to land on every planet in a solar system before knowing its trade value. Mapping out trade routes by being forced to land on each planet doesn't enhance gameplay. Which actually ties into something else. Do a mining-only playthrough and let me know if being forced to find individual minables enhances the exploration experience. Spoiler, it doesn't. I still think a PR like this is necessary for near-term gameplay for mining. Would it be great to have a total mining overhaul in the long run? Absolutely. I think a total overhaul in this pull request is not the right thing, though, or is not the right place, and it still addresses a huge pain point for mining. And I said, well, I did say, if we're going to allow getting near asteroids to mark them, then I'd make it even easier, which is much closer to the current behavior of knowing trade prices or what's sold at outfitters or shipyards by just entering the system. The suggested idea of a map key is something that we should definitely do regardless, but I simply suggested that it could contain an alternative to this. Although taking the above, just give me everything when I enter, while being simpler on its own, will also simplify the minables map to just one color for the number of minables in the system. Sam says, I saw that part of your comment. I like the idea of outfit scanners. Or asteroid scanners. It still has a limited range, and you're not guaranteed to scan everything if you don't travel within range. With a single human scanner, this means you'll still miss some elements if you're traveling straight through. I think this is okay. The main point was just to avoid having to specifically target an asteroid to catalog it. The range limit gives an additional reason to stack multiple asteroid scanners. I think the trade-off to decide the stack asteroid scanners is well into the spirit of Endless Sky. Every player build is full of trade-offs depending on what the player wants. I said, fair. Zija says, I also like the only catalog what is in range behavior because it gives the player a reason to look around. Just arriving, glancing at the map and going, no high-value stuff here, and jumping to the next system is not engaging gameplay. And we just had an argument on Discord that basically boiled down to, in my view, we need more stuff to do in systems. So there's the history of the comments here. Let's see. Hector says, actually I already read that one. Doom says, I like the passive cataloging. The fact that it requires an asteroid scanner is enough, I'd say. Ferocious says, if you have asteroid scanning and a certain uncatalogued asteroid passes by, there should be a random chance to catalog. If you select it, it gets guaranteed cataloged. If a projectile you own breaks an asteroid, catalog it. Probably not. Otherwise, probably no cataloging. So that last one, if a projectile you own hits an asteroid and catalog it, I'm not on board with that one. I mean, because right now, if you pick up an asteroid, that is enough to catalog it, I believe. So I think just destroying an asteroid isn't enough. You have to also pick it up. I don't know why only destroying it would be enough to know what it is. Doom says, don't know enough about code comment one way or the other on the implementation, but I like the feature. Victor says, you kind of do need a scanner to know if something is mineable or not, at least without breaking it. Yeah. Doom says, currently minables follow curved paths while non-minables follow straight paths. Hector says, I know they look and move slightly differently, but for most intents and purposes, you kind of need the scanner. Yeah, I think that's true, because, like, you almost have to be looking for them. In which case, you need to know there's two different types of asteroids. Well, if you don't know there's two different types of asteroids, then... I mean, we've had people on Steam who are like, I mean, I've seen there's mineable asteroids, but, like, how do I actually know which ones are mineable? And we say, like, look for the ones that have the curved paths and not the straight paths. So clearly it's not obvious to people at first. At least without the asteroid scanner. Wolfie says, agreed, I have no idea which rocks are mineable. Hector says, outfitter map is definitely not a good place to display this information. True. Ferocious says, this takes a lot of concentration to identify the rocks that are being tugged by gravity. Yeah. Doom says, I usually distinguish them by watching where they go. I can't always tell them apart by appearance. Ferocious says, I'd say finding a single instance of a type of mineable should map all of that type. The time it took you to find it is an indirect signifier of how rare they are, you could say. When you say map all of that type, do you mean in every system that it could possibly appear in? You now know where it is just from mining it once in one system? I'm just for sure on that. Sarge says, okay, new thought. Regular scanners you can passively scan, and perhaps special ones that you target reveal the upcoming yield, health, etc. to asteroids. I'm not really convinced we need multiple... Okay, so... zooming out a bit. What changes are we already planning to make for mining? Tractor beams and mining lasers are two outfits that will be coming relatively soon. By the end of this year, at least. And I've also talked about having special cargo holds for minables. Cargo holds that can only contain minables, and therefore have increased capacity compared to a general cargo hold. So that's 3 outfits. Added to asteroid scanners, that would be 4 outfits that you need to get in order to have like a proper mining setup. And maybe we can have different tiers to these, yes. Maybe there's different tiers of mining lasers, and different tiers of cargo holds, and different tiers of tractor beams. Maybe even different tiers of asteroid scanners. But what is the harm in, if we're saying, oh, I would be fine with this mechanic if it was in 2 different scanners, can we live with it all being in 1 scanner right now? That's kind of some of what I was thinking of with this. Like, maybe this isn't exactly what we want in the end, but I do actually agree with Sam that this is an improvement to mining gameplay. Because at least for me, I sometimes look at the map definitions, like the system definitions. I will know if a system has a mineable in it, just by that alone. But I will still be unable to find it. But I don't want to always have to look at the map file to know where minables are. I think if, like, maybe at some point I just got lucky enough to fly past an asteroid and I didn't even realize it was mineable. I mean, I'd probably realize it was mineable, because you have to have a scanner, and the scanners mark the asteroids. But rather, I didn't realize it was different from ones I had already seen before. First it says remapping all asteroids if you see it once. No, I mean just within that system, since rarities change from system to system. I mean, that's how it works now. I'm not really sure what your distinction is. I say finding a single instance of a type of mineable should map all of that type. I'm not sure what you mean. Hector says, if you found a system that only has uranium, you've done enough exploration to find that system without also having to explore that system to find out if it has uranium. Keep in mind that it takes about like 3.5 seconds, 4 seconds, somewhere. First you said what it was earlier, 200 frames. It takes like 200 frames of being near something to actually, like, potentially map it. Like, sure, maybe you can map it on the first frame if you're lucky, but you have to, like, sit near these things to map them. Which I guess the question then kind of goes back to what I was saying, where the range, maybe it's not the range limit that's arbitrary, but it's the time limit that's arbitrary. Because if you're close enough, if you're standing near an asteroid for 4 seconds to catalog it automatically, well, you could have just targeted the asteroid in that 4 seconds. Hector says, at that point, you're just AFK. You're just flying into the asteroid belt and AFKing. Yeah. Although maybe that gets into the idea of stronger asteroid scanners. Maybe the stronger ones automatically catalog quicker? I don't know. I think this should at least come back. That sure says uranium asteroid shouldn't exist. Hector says, I don't see a problem with requiring you to target, so I mine something to catalog it. I mean, I guess part of it is you're not mining in every system. Sometimes you are just traveling through systems to get to a location you know where there's good minables. Just through experience. But maybe in traveling through systems, you auto-catalog stuff and you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that was there. Now I can go there to mine stuff. The point, though, is not having to manually check every single asteroid in every single system in order to map everything out. Which, talking about what Sam said, where was it? If trading was like mining, you would have to land on every planet in a solar system before knowing its trade values. Which actually brings up another topic. These three. Hide unvisited outfitters. If the player didn't visit an outfitter, the outfit's map will show the location as has outfitter until the player enters it. This feature depends on a preference key, which is set to off by default. Because of the nature of the feature, enabling it mid-game will show all outfitters actually visited, making the switch between features on and off mode simple and accurate. Testing was done by checking the map for specific outfitters, which were both visited and unvisited for the on mode and unvisited for the off mode. Both yielded the desired results. Hide unknown outfits. When the feature is enabled, the logic is as follows. An outfit will be marked as unknown until the player enters an outfitter when the outfit is in its cargo. The outfit was given to the player as a present. The outfit is a part of a captured ship. The outfit is a part of a bot ship. The outfit is an asteroid, which is targeted using an asteroid scanner. When encountering an unknown outfit, and either boarding, outfitter scans, or outfit scans, cargo scans, or when invoking the ship's info panel, the outfit name will be unknown outfit, or unknown outfits for more than one. Its value is not known. Unknown outfits cannot be sold via the trading panel, as it's unknown, or its value is not known. This feature depends on a preference key, which is set to off by default. And the same thing for unknown ship models. These three, and this mineable one, are moving in completely different directions. I don't think we can merge both. Because we would at once be saying it should be easier to map things out, and at the same time, it should be more difficult to find things out. Says, what about a minables map you could buy? That could be a thing, probably. Hector says, oh yeah, I don't like these 3 pull requests. Warp says, oh, these, no. Ferocious says, interesting, merge it. Easier, slightly easier. What's easier? Also, I've made it interesting for new players. It'll make it interesting for new players trying to find the surveillance pod. If they can't even know what a surveillance drone is. Okay, these all stem from 7906. Which I will note, if I recall correctly. Yeah, it has a fair number of +1s. Hector says, oh yeah, I don't like these 3 pull requests. What's this? Hector says, I don't want to see us making it super easy to find new things, but making some things being a bit easier to find is fine. Warp says Hector is just a bit weird with his reviewing. I just ignore his reviews. Hector, you are a bit weird with your reviewing. Hector says I changed my mind. Okay. Doom says, yeah, human outfits probably shouldn't ever show as unknown. Yeah. Ferocious says, just gift the player a surveillance spot before the mission, easy. What? And then, like, immediately take it back away? That would be such a, like, clunky way of implementing that. Gift it to the player so that they know what it is, but then immediately take it away so they still have to go looking for it. Hector says, there's a reason I haven't approved any of the other 3. Actually, let's read the... I mean, we could... Did we close all 3 of these? This feature is intended to make outfits and outfitters in the game more quote-unquote realistic. Okay, you've just lost me already. He said the word. It follows this logic. An outfit is known to the player if... so on and so forth, which we've already kind of gone through. Do I just mark them all unlikely? Azure says flushed, a man after my heart. Hector says, Katya hands you a surveillance pod. This is what you're looking for. Katya smashes the surveillance pod over her knee. Warp says, also, while we're here, approving a pull request that you can't understand beyond a description, the description on a conceptual level is kind of meaningless. You don't even know what the code does when what it says. If I have a pull request that just does something and said, make things better in the description, would you approve that on the conceptual level? Making things better is a concept we can all get behind, right? No, I would not get behind that concept. I want to make things worse. There was also that one... There's also, so long as we're bullying Hector here. Where's your review? Or was it, Hold on, you approved it, right? Okay, it's approved. But look at this comment. That said, if you ask me whether I support this pull request based on its merits, I do not. I would prefer not to see this merged. Approved, by the way. Honestly, that's not how it should work. That is not how it should work. Doom says, potentially you could tie this behavior to some kind of hidden tag for an outfit, which would let you have some outfits harder to work out, but I definitely don't like the idea of this being a core mechanic. Yeah, not only that, but I don't like the idea of it being a preference. Like, let me check. Preferences. He even added it to the preferences panel. Like, what is the purpose of having a preference that lets you hide things from yourself? He says as he supports the existence of the map fog preference, but hide unexplored map regions. I think this should just be default on, to be honest. Like, just don't even make it a preference, just have it on by default. But in any case, this is like a game rule, not a preference. First, it says Evil Derpy strikes again. Yeah, Warp says they at least put it behind a preference, but like, is this actually a good mechanic? Why wouldn't we want it to be on to begin with? It's just not. Yeah, it's just not. That's why we want it off by default. But at that point, why are we adding it? Yeah. Hector says, I would actually like to remove the approval if I can, but GitHub doesn't let you. You can't dismiss your own review? Thank you, GitHub. Very cool. Hector says, I approved that one because I didn't feel like it was worth arguing about. And given that I had argued about it previously, left an approval to make it clear I wasn't blocking the idea of it being merged, even if I'd probably rather not see it merged. You do you. You do you. Azure says, wait, are we talking about the gas giant thing? I haven't been listening. Yeah. I was just using like a comment from there as an example. We're not actually like discussing it in depth. Last week, 3 days ago. Alright, yeah, what do I say? Azure says closes it. I do want to actually talk to you, Azure, about that at some point. I don't know if I want to do that necessarily like on stream. But from my perspective, Zichaz, I mean, he's proposing it, so he's fine with it. Araki's fine with it when it is in coalition space. Sure, it's your description, but I don't really know how much weight you can have when it's kind of like Araki's area. Just as Araki isn't. It's not what I gathered. I don't know, I felt like he was taking the Hector position where it's like, I don't want to deal with this. Azure says, if you read his latest comment, his reading of the change is very different from what Zichaz's goal with the pull request is. This is true, and I also feel like Zichaz's change doesn't even address his original goal. Which I find is a running theme with some of Zichaz's pull requests. He's like, I have an issue, I want to fix the issue, here's the change I'm making. And I'm like, I don't feel like this even fixes your issue. Zoro says Zichaz wants to remove the ability of the Coalition to explore the gas giant, while Araki wants it to be maintained. Araki doesn't care about the probe versus vessel distinction, but reading Zichaz's intent, his goal is to remove the mentioned ability. Araki specifically asked me to add the whole research vessel thing when I made Vivid Aether, because he wants to clarify that, yes, the Heliarchs do have that technological ability. Hector says, so close these three and then let's talk about Vivid Aether. We could close Vivid Aether too. I mean, if I want to close these three, though, I gotta first put a comment why. You requested a review from Tahouch. Make Warp do it, says Hector. Sure says the region should be closed so we can talk about another pull request. Alright. Alright, I have a line of questioning that kind of gets at the core of this. I don't think that this is a mechanic, or that this and its sister PRs is a mechanic that we should have in the game. The original pull request states the following. The problem with that reasoning is that realism has never really been our aim. Sure, maybe it's more realistic that you don't know the name of an alien ship the moment you see it. But how much do we really gain by obscuring it? Perhaps one could argue that it gives a greater sense of exploration to not only discover something new, but also discover what exactly it is. Ferocious says, I suppose my gripe is where does the player learn what's in XYZ's outfit description? It's a gameplay thing, alright? We don't need any nonsense realism. The problem with that reasoning is that realism has never really been our aim. Sure, maybe it's more realistic if you don't know the name of an alien ship the moment you see it, but how much do we really gain by obscuring it? Perhaps one could argue that it gives a greater sense of exploration to not only discover something new, but also discover what exactly it is. But at the same time, there is a point where the level of effort required to have your player character know something becomes burdensome. I think one of the biggest things that Endless Sky has going for it is its replay value. And to that end, I don't want the creation of a new pilot, or starting over, I don't want starting over, to be overly burdensome. It may take someone hours to visit every planet in human space just so that they can know where things are. Jim says, if I wanted realism, I'd go outdoors. I hear it's pretty realistic out there. So have I. Hector says, we can always do this with missions as well. If you really want to have an unknown outfit, that only becomes known once the player visits an outfitter or learns about it somehow. With a few times where we might want to do this legitimately. Yeah, I do think the concept of being able to obscure information for a period of time makes sense to me. But I don't think this is the way to do it, for sure. So maybe I can probably go more in depth into that. It may take someone hours to visit every planet in human space just so they can know where things are for them to buy. I don't think we should be creating that burden for every time you restart a pilot. Sure, you have to re-explore where systems are. With every new save. But for that, we have local maps that help expedite the process. Also of note is that we have open requests like 7103 that seek to do the exact opposite. That is removing the tedium of simply knowing what and where things are. Sure, this is a preference, but it's defaulted to off. So at that point, I'd ask, why even add the preference? If not only is it default off, but it's also a thing that almost no one would be likely to turn on. Hector says, worst case, you can have a known and unknown version and swap them out via an event once the player learns about them. That is actually what's done with the Kestrel. When you first see, it's not swapped out with an event, it's just a different ship is spawned by the mission. But the first time you see the Kestrel, its name is Unknown Ship, or something like that. There's the problem, though. I don't think ships have display names, right? Ships don't have display names. Therefore, we can only have one unknown ship. Hector says being able to change the name and description would certainly be neat. Yeah, that's in the cards for like an eventually thing. and I want to add some. I want to go through this. The problem with that reasoning is that realism has never really been our aim. Sure, maybe it's realistic that you don't know the name of an alien ship the moment you see it, but how much do we really gain by obscuring it? Perhaps one could argue that it gives a greater sense of exploration to not only discover something new, but also discover what exactly it is. But at the same time, there is a point where the level of effort required to have your player character know something becomes burdensome. I think one of the biggest things that Endless Sky has going for it is replay value. And to that end, I don't want starting over to be overly burdensome. It seems, or it may take someone hours to visit every planet in the human space just so they know where things are for them to buy. Assuming that literally every outfit or ship is marked as unknown in this manner, which doesn't really make much sense when someone who grew up in human space would presumably know what ships and outfits there are. I don't think we should be creating that burden for every time we restart a pilot. Sure, you have to explore where systems are with every new save, but for that we have local maps that help expedite the process. Also of note is that we have some open requests like 7103 that do the exact opposite, that is remove the tedium of simply knowing what and where things are. Sure, this is a preference, but it's default to off. Stuff like this also is far more fit for being a game rule than a preference. But even then, I want to avoid game rules that toggle entire mechanics. That we simply have, or that we have off by default. Like I don't think it makes sense to say, oh, we have game rules so we can make certain things just not happen anymore, and then be like, okay, let's make a bunch of mechanics we don't even use for vanilla, just default them to off. But it's like, then why even spend the time working on them if most people are not going to be experiencing them? But what about plugins? I mean, well, we can deal with that later, can we not? Actress says not yet, but there's a pull request for ship display names, I think. There might be. I know there was one for outfits, and I think that got merged. I honestly forget. If you want to have... How should I explain this? Oh, first was merged, yeah, says Hector. Okay. So if you want to have ... if you want to increase... If you want to increase the experience of, or improve the experience of exploration, I'd much rather see something like display names. Display names. Do we have a display name? Let's see. Ship display names. Does anyone know what that number would be? This feels a bit too far back already. The second page? Nah, it's not on the second page at all. You know what? Condition, description. Is it a Peter pull request? If you want to increase or to improve the experience of exploration, I'd much rather see something like 7138 be finished and able to allow the names of ships to change based on player conditions. display names. At game start, the player should already know about everything in human space. If the player stumbles upon a system with an alien system, let's say, with an outfitter or shipyard, ships and outfits, then the player should still be able to know what is sold where, and even know the value, but simply have the display name obscure the true name. Then, through missions, we'd swap over to using true names wherever we find appropriate. For example, I do think it would be more interesting that once the Pug invade human space, that their ships and government displayed as unknown. Or otherwise, something different than their true name. Only once you learn who the Pug are would the names be revealed. Meaning you wouldn't need to capture them to figure that information out. Hector says, there was one, but it's closed. Is that so? Whose was it? K.O. Why was it closed? By me. Ha! It was orphaned. What if somebody wants to pick it up? Doom says, what I'd really like is the ability to override licenses in the shipyard or outfitter definition, since that's what I actually want to do. But I could get around it using display names. Or alternatively, if we could fix the bug where you can't change license requirements in a variant, I could also get around it using that. I didn't even know that was a bug. I do think we should be able to have outfitters and shipyards override licenses. That would be... Or something, some method that would allow you to gain licensed, like buy licensed stuff without the license. Maybe that means multiple different types of licenses. Like right now, when you list licenses, it's like, oh, you need all of these. But what if we could say you need this or this? Or like you said, you need like this license and to be at this location, or just to be at this location, something like that. Doom says, I'd PR that if I had the faintest idea how to do it. LOL. I mean, is there an issue open for it? Because if it's not an issue open for it, you should open an issue for it, even if you don't know how to fix it. Hector says, repeating landing missions that give you the license as soon as you land on a specific planet to remove it as soon as you take off. Won't bloat the save at all. It actually wouldn't. It actually wouldn't. Because joke's on you, the only thing that stacks up in the save file is what are called changes. Licenses are a condition. Conditions do not stack like that. It's only universe changes that stack. So universe changes are, I'm changing how a system or a planet or a fleet is defined. I think those are the big three. But there's probably some others, like galaxies you can technically change. I mean, there's a whole list of them. If you go to events, source, game event, and then near the top of the file. Okay, these can all be changed. Fleets, galaxies, governments, outfitters, news, planets, shipyards, systems, substitutions, and wormholes. These get rewritten to your save file. Just as Oni, so you're saying my suggestion works then. Ship it. I mean, technically, yes. Technically, it works. But, no, not merging that. Anyway, let's reread this. I don't think this and its sister PRs is a mechanic that we should have in the game. The original pull request states the following. This feature is intended to make outfits and outfitters in the game more realistic. The problem with that reasoning is that realism has never really been our aim. Sure, maybe it's more realistic that you don't know the name of an alien ship the moment you see it, but how much do we really gain by obscuring it? Perhaps one could argue that it gives a greater sense of exploration to not only discover something new, but also discover exactly what it is. But at the same time, there is a point where the level of effort required to have your player character know something becomes burdensome. I think one of the biggest things that Endless Sky has going for it is its replay value, and to that end, I don't want starting over to be overly burdensome. It may take someone hours to visit every planet in human space just so that they can know where things are for them to buy, assuming that literally every outfit or ship is marked as unknown in this manner, which doesn't really make much sense when someone who grew up in human space would presumably know what ships and outfits there are. I don't think we should be creating that burden for every time you restart a pilot. Sure, you have to re-explore where systems are with every new save, but for that we at least have local maps to help expedite the process. I will also add, if anyone's thinking about the loan, like, isn't that reasoning similar to the loan? No, because if you replay, you know different ways to get your loan down on the second playthrough. With this, there is no expediting this process. It's the exact same thing every time. Oh, I need to visit every single planet in human space just so I can know where to buy things. There's nothing, like, interesting about that on a second or third playthrough. There is interesting things about dealing with your loan again on a second or third playthrough, or so on and so forth. So keep that in mind. Also, of note, is that we have open pull requests like 7103 that seek to do the exact opposite. That is, remove the tedium of simply knowing what and where things are. Sure, this is a preference, but it's default to off. So at that point, I'd ask, why even add the preference if not only is it defaulted to off, but it's also something that almost no one would be likely to turn on. Stuff like this also is far more fit for being a game rule than a preference, but even then, I want to avoid game rules that toggle entire mechanics that we have off by default. If you want to improve the experience of exploration, I'd much rather see something like 7138 be finished and be able to allow display names and descriptions of ships and outfits to change based on player conditions. At game start, the player should already know about everything in human space. If the player stumbles upon an alien system with an outfit or a shipyard, then the player should still be able to know what is sold there, what sold where, and even know the value, but simply have this display name obscure the true name. Then, through missions, we'd swap over to using true names wherever we feel appropriate. For example, I do think it would be more interesting that once the Pug invade human space, that their ships and governments would display as unknown, or otherwise something different than their true name. Only once you learn who the Pug are would the name be revealed, or the names be revealed, meaning you wouldn't need to capture them to figure that information out. So comment. First, it says, I agree the player should know about everything in human space, like hyperspace lanes and system positions, maybe? Question mark? Pushing an agenda, sorry. No. So that gets back to, this kind of gets back to some of the things I've talked about where, like, game design is not about realism, unless you're trying to make a realistic game, of course. But it's not entirely about realism. It's not entirely about giving the player as many choices as possible. It's about creating interesting choices and interesting gameplay. And sure, maybe you can say, like, oh, it makes sense that, or it would make more sense if your starship already has map locations for a bunch of stuff. But I feel like that starting point of exploring an entirely unknown galaxy provides more interesting gameplay than if you were to have everything or even just parts of it already explored. Hector says, I tried to make faction capitals visible at game start and it was shot down once you did it. The player character surely knows about those places at least. Well, you know about them. I think the first contact when you reach the ring world in human space even says as much. Like, you know about them. You've known about the Quarg. You knew about Tarzed. That's not the same thing as knowing where it is on a star map. So yeah, I guess we'll back out here. Dags, and then swipe. Unlikely. Wolfie says, oh my god, the dog I picked up from the pirate world is fucking Pookie. You can thank Anarchist for that one. Warb says, I'm pretty sure Tarzed is even referenced in the intro conversation. It is. There's a few references to locations. Although, Wolfie, watch out. If you're not on a new enough version, Pookie will disappear when you reload the save twice. You have to be on continuous. I don't know what you're on, if you're using the 10.0 or not. Warp Course says there's also gameplay and story segregation. Even if a character does know or can easily find out about all systems and how they are linked together, part of the game is that this information is not immediately available. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Doom says, yeah, I'd heard of New York long before I could actually point it out on a map. This. Hector says, I think it was Tarzed, Gamma Corvi, Epsilon Leonis, and Delta Capricorni that I had visible at the start of the game. Not Sol. Doom says it's if it's the release or the Steam beta, the dog will vanish. Only on continuous is it safe. Yeah, unfortunately so. Alright. Oh, hey, Sam. How's it going? Getting back to this. Oh, I have the tab open twice. Alright, I think we're good on inaccuracy, and we're good on... I mean, I don't know, there were arguments on this, but I mean, I'm gonna merge it. I'm gonna merge it. If we want to add more depth to asteroid scanners in the future, we can do that in the future. But I do actually agree with Sam here. Like, for the same reasoning, I think these are unlikely. I think this is a more positive change than it is a negative change. Warp Course says, hiding the outfit in ship names isn't a feature the game is even designed for. It's inconsistent with other aspects of the game that are intended to reduce tedious stuff, like landing on a planet to find out the trade prices, or visiting the shop to get what items it sells. Yeah. Hector says outfit, Pookie. Display name, Pookie in quotes. True name, Pookie. Model, dog. Classification, canine. Doom says manufacturer, 2 dogs. Or, of course, that EV had more of those tedious things, and even it didn't hide ship model names from you. Yeah. Allow weapons to define how their inaccuracy is distributed. I'm going to first go to the wiki. Creating weapons and outfits. Edit. Inaccuracy. Somewhere down here. Hello? There we go. The maximum error in degrees in a projectile's firing angle. Inaccuracy limits a weapon's effectiveness at range, but can also make it look a bit more natural and unpredictable. How should I do this? Oops. Actually, let's do this. Beginning in version 0.10.1. The distribution of how a weapon's inaccuracy is distributed. Okay. How a weapon's inaccuracy is distributed can be controlled by the following child nodes. I think I want to use similar vocabulary as to other locations on the wiki. I think creating ships talks about child nodes. I mean, yeah, you would have read the rest. It says child of the sprite. Alright, where the hell was I? Oh shit, I lost my place. Beginning in version 0.10.1, how a weapon's inaccuracy is distributed can be controlled by the following child nodes. Triangular. Inaccuracy forms a triangular distribution, being 2/3 as likely to appear in the middle 1/3 of the inaccuracy. Or of the angle. And 1/3 is likely to appear in the outer 2/3 of the angle. This is the default behavior if no distribution is defined and has been and was the only behavior prior to version 0.10.1. Then we have uniform. Inaccuracy forms a uniform distribution, being equally as likely to fire the projectile anywhere within the inaccuracy angle. Then we have inverted, actually, let's say narrow or medium or wide. The inaccuracy forms a normal distribution with either a narrow, medium, or wide standard deviation. Inverted inverts the distribution of narrow, medium, or wide inaccuracies of only narrow, medium, or wide inaccuracies, so that projectiles are more likely to appear at the edges of the angle rather than the middle. So here's how it looks. The maximum error in degrees in a projectile's firing angle. Inaccuracy limits a weapon's effectiveness at long range, but can also make it look a bit more natural and unpredictable. Beginning in version 0.10.1, how a weapon's inaccuracy is distributed can be controlled by the following child nodes. Triangular inaccuracy forms a triangular distribution, being 2/3 is likely to appear in the middle 1/3 of the angle, and 1/3 is likely to appear in the outer 2/3 of the angle. This is the default behavior if no distribution is defined, and was the only behavior prior to this version. Uniform, the inaccuracy forms a uniform distribution, being equally as likely to fire the projectile anywhere within the inaccuracy angle. Normal, medium, or wide, the inaccuracy forms a normal distribution with either a narrow, medium, or wide standard deviation. And inverted inverts the distribution of only normal, medium, or wide inaccuracies, so that the projectiles are more likely to appear at the edges of the angle rather than the middle. Ferocious says, I'll have to get into the wiki and figure out what the standard deviations are for narrow, medium, and wide distributions. I mean, I can put them down. In parentheses, .138, .234, and .314 respectively. Alright, I think that's good. Close that, close that. Close that. Bite the trigger on that. Close that. Double check this. Okay, yeah, now it is just this area now. I'll say feet mechanics. Asteroid scanners can now automatically catalog mineable locations when nearby. Something like that. All the checks look good. What's waiting? One of the Ubuntu CIs. I mean, if the rest are good, the first one, that one should be good, right? Right. Updating my list. Alright. Then should I just close these three? I mean, yeah, it's not like closing them stops the conversation from happening. Yes, close them. Nothing stops, says Hector. Alright, well that's that. Also had, this one looks like Terran hasn't gotten to it yet. Tisk. Poke him. This one, the owner did get to after we reviewed it. This was the Arfecta one. Gonna give this one another once over, just in case. Quarg Pug Arfecta warning. Source: any Quarg Ringworld. Quarg or Ringworld. It should be Quarg and Ringworld. So, multiple attributes on the same line says, or means A or B. In this case, we want this to offer on a planet that is both Quarg and a Ringworld. In which case, we use two attribute lines, or separate attribute lines, let's say. To offer, you already have Quarg First Contact, and you have a ship model, which is a Pug Arfecta. Then, if your Arfecta is not your main, your flagship, as soon as you land, you see a crowd of Quarg gathering around one of your escorts, the Pug Arfecta. The captain of the ship looks shaken as the Quarg surround them, seemingly being questioned by a rather tall Quarg, even by Quarg standards. The captain looks around and, seeing you, points in your direction, causing the Quarg to come your way. The tall Quarg towers over you and gives you a piercing glare. Or if it's your flagship, as soon as you land your ship, a crowd of Quarg approach to gather around. As you go to disembark, you find a rather imposing Quarg blocking the exit. Tall, even by Quarg standards, it towers over you and gives you a piercing stare. It is as though a baby in swaddling has tamed a dragon and now rises through the sky, spewing fire with reckless abandon, it says, while not breaking its gaze, unblinking. It's a long story. It scoffs. It matters not how it happened. We give you a warning. You know not what you have, child, the weapon you wield. We have seen its power, we have felt its power, we have learned from its power. But you and your kind know nothing of this power and its burdens and dangers. Be careful that you are not the one who directs this power. Or that you are the one who directs its power, not it you. And be careful to remember that we have learned how to overcome it. The Quark curtly motions farewell, then takes one last step, or one last long look at your ship, before leaving you to your business. The crowd starts to disperse, with a few staring behind to gawk at it. As you make your way through the ring, you notice that many of the Quark on board are staring at you, or glaring at you. So, let's make this change. Sog says, I'm gonna have to edit this one later either way. Not sure if we should have a different interaction with the Gegno Quark or just make it so it can't be done there. Probably the former. I'm splitting up the Quark government in a pull quest to maybe work around it. Yeah, we can deal with this later. That is something we'll need to deal with, though. Ferocious says, oh shit, I'm writing my own suggestions to this now. Unbelievable. Well, I have to go to the bathroom, so you have that time. I'm going to approve this, and then merge this quick change myself. I already approved it. Fix source location. You have until I return. You know what? How about we take a bit more of an extended break as well? I'm hungry. Doom says a rather imposing Quark block. If you want to make that suggestion, go ahead. Hector says right fast. Hector says it's kind of weird having this be one of the only times in the game where someone reacts to the specific ship you're flying. I mean, is it though? It is like, it's a limited ship. There's only 3 of them in the game. And it's a pug ship that the Quark have a history with. So I think it makes sense for, in this case, there to be an interaction or reaction, given the ship you're flying. But what else would you expect? Because realize, if you want to do something like, oh, humans reacting to your alien ship, it's going to be a lot of conditions, because there's a lot of alien ships. Also the fact that we only recently even got the ability to see what ship the player has in conditions. So that's another reason why we don't have many of these. There just hasn't been enough time. Yeah, Ferocious says I'd take this as a precedence to make more missions. There goes my suggestion, updating in real time. And Woofy says, this makes it even more epic, to be honest. Yeah, to have this be the one case where you're actually confronted about, like, your ship. Alright, well, yeah, we'll be having a short, let's say 15-minute intermission here, while you enjoy the tunes that will possibly get copyright striked, in which case this will be a silent part of the playback, unless I download it quick enough. Sometimes I'm able to get the download off of Twitch quick enough where they don't even block anything in it. Although I do think it's kind of stupid how they mute the audio even in the download. Like, come on, I'm downloading it. Why are you muting the audio in my download? Nobody else but me is seeing my download. So, like, screw you, Twitch. But yeah. Have fun while I wait and eat. I've returned. See what you've been up to. Orb said if this is going to lead to more stuff like this, maybe we shouldn't do it. Well, it's not going to lead to more stuff like this because I'm going to deny every other pull quest that is like this. Hector says, let's discuss realism, and Hector says we need more of it. Doom says, I think having more missions to respond to the player would be a good thing. That sort of thing really makes a game come to life and lets you add more detail about the world. Like, I'd say there could definitely be something that happens if a player is flying a stolen Navy ship during the Free Worlds. And Hector says, I mean, part of the problem that I see is if there are occurrences where NPCs and missions react to the player, it just starts bringing up questions. Why do they react to this ship in this instance but not in this other instance? Which then puts us into a weird position of needing to either have the weird disconnect omnipresent or start trying to add in NPC/world reactions everywhere they would be appropriate. What, you can't just have a one-off? I wouldn't say it's a disconnect, but... Azure says this is why I think we need outfit/ship tags. So instead of a condition for every Navy ship, you just have a Navy condition that checks for ships with the Navy tag. We can likewise have alien tags and such. Maybe even tier tags, so you get a different reaction for flying a Gegno ship versus a Wanderer ship, or a War Dragon. Hector says, you'd think Wanderers, for instance, would react to you landing an Arfecta on one of their worlds. And Ferocious says, don't they already indirectly do that? They get whiny. Hector says, not as far as I'm aware, unless you specifically kill the two guarding them. Yeah, there is one that you can get a hold of, and the Wanderers will not care. Ferocious says, and people have already spoken up about this League of stuff before. In quotes, why aren't the Free Worlds thrilled about my huge alien fleet? We'll crush the Navy opposition. In parentheses, yeah, that's what I mean. They get upset at you for attacking the Arfecta guarding their space, yeah. Well, as far as the big alien fleet in the Free Worlds campaign, I mean, the canon way to play is a single ship of an expected tier and strength for the campaign that you were playing in. Hector says, well, that's the kind of thing. Right now, it's just because there's a disconnect between the player and the world. No matter what you fly, the world never reacts to it. Once you start bridging that gap, I think you're committed to fully bridging it. I don't. Which I'm not sure fully bridging it is a good idea. Then don't. You're only fully committed to bridging the gap if you think you're fully committed to bridging the gap. I don't think we're fully committed to bridging the gap. Therefore, we're not fully committed to bridging the gap. Yeah, Ferocious says, in all honesty, I advocate for bridging the gap only where it's particularly relevant, like the Quark reacting to an Arfecta in your possession. I don't have any other examples. Exactly. And Azure says, I don't think we need a reaction to everything. Yes. If you're saying we need a reaction to anything, that's effectively saying the game needs more realism. So no. I mean, there's so many places in the story where it's like, well, why am I not able to ask this? Or why am I not able to do this? And it's like, well, if we accounted for everything, we would never get anything done. The game needs to have boundaries. We need to have limits to what we can do. Or what we try to do. Sure, maybe you could say, well, it'd be so much more realistic if this happened, or it'd be so much better if that happened. It's like, well, that happening will require hundreds of hours of work. Hector says, if the Clark react you flying an Arfecta, shouldn't Wanderers as well? Maybe. Shouldn't Coalition react you flying a Clark ship? Could they? What about Remnant when you show up in a Korth hospital ship? Why not? I just kind of feel like it's opening a Pandora's box. Maybe we don't want to open. Well, how many examples is that? 1, 2, 3? It's 3 examples. How many more can we possibly think of? So long as you're not like, oh, I have like 100 examples of places where somebody could interact to something, then it's not an issue. But if you're like, I have a handful of other situations I can think of that are similar to this, then it's like, okay, then let's add a handful of other situations that are similar to this. Warp says, hey Derpy, I just realized I pushed a change that hides the World Forge Galaxy. Okay. Ferocious says, I'll draft up a bunch of missions where these things happen, and pull request once Derpy has calmed down and allowed a new pull request. It will never happen. I will never allow a new pull request. Doom says, genuinely, I would like to know what the Free Worlds would think about boarding and capturing Navy ships. That's, specifically, I think would be an interesting thing to explore. Remove choruses, Azure. Doom says, I think it's fair not to do it for stuff that isn't something which could reasonably happen. So captured Navy ships during Free Worlds, yes, but 400 captured 349s during Free Worlds, no. We don't need reaction to that, yeah. Hector says, you get no fleet and you'll be happy. You will own nothing. Azure says, why don't you just remove ships in general? I'll think about it. Warp says, reaction to everything? Q Remnant offering to buy all your alien ships and outfits with all the money they have, but still can't afford to make cars. Still on those camels. Doom says, I think most people will think, hey, that's neat, when they get a response to their ship, but not, well, why didn't I get a response to X? Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot less cases of that. I can give examples all day, Derpy. You want to try me? No. Alright, where were we? It's just, you want me to paste my rant about how specialization of labor makes camel labor stupid? Hello? Yeah, I already got to it. Cool. Anyone else have any problems with this? Your mom. Just as I do. Overruled. Quark now acknowledged the player flying a Pug Arfecta. Pensive. Azure says, I'm the community manager now. My name is Orange. And Doom says, it's purple on my screen, so I guess congrats on core, question mark? It's green on my screen, so... You are... You're a low priest. Is that what that role was colored? That's like old lore about the Discord server. Low priest role. This is yours an automaton. It's not that shade of green. Should just bring back the deep lore roll so it would be funny? No. It's closer to the green that core members can choose if they want. Wolfie says green while being red. Alright. Let's see what else I have. So yeah, this one's still waiting on Terran. This one still waiting on Coroneer. We can poke both of them on Discord. I have a question on... oops. Whoops, it's 50 or 85.63 if you're looking for something to look at. I'm not. Because I have 8 more pull quests. But I think I'm going to wrap this up soon. I don't want to go for 7 hours again. Or probably, it'd be closer to 6 hours today. I have stuff to do. You want something to close? It's a sure. Alright, I have 4 pull requests that I will let us look at. But I want you guys to choose one of them, and we'll take a look at it. First one. Mission deadlines and payments with wormholes and jump drives. 6846. 6846. What this lets you do is, as it says, allow missions to take into account the use of wormholes. Right now, if you have a distance filter or try to use a payment, it will not work if you are trying to travel across a wormhole. A distance filter will never go across a wormhole. A payment filter will break if the destination is beyond a wormhole. Or if it's in disconnected systems where you have to use jump drives. Next one. NPCs can have actions for various ship events. 7326. Make his bid on them, says sure. This implements, at least in part, 5248, which would allow us to trigger actions when something occurs to an NPC. For example, when you disable the NPC, you could have something happen. Then when you kill it, you could have something different happen. Next, also warp course. Show some reputations in the logbook. 6873. This UI screenshot is out of date, but it adds a reputation category to your logbook, which lists various governments which you know your relationship with, and it converts the value of your relationship with them, your reputation, to some string. And finally, not warps, overly aggressive government surveillance, 7229. Fixes an issue where governments trying to scan you could scan you a lot and spam your messages. And in remnant space, surveillance ships switch targets too fast and never complete scanning a ship. This causes 20 plus fighter and drone class ships to swarm player fleet, switching ships more often than a scan can complete. Sure, so scanning is such a mess right now, I vote this one. I mean, this one doesn't really change scanning the way you might want. It's more of a, it's a bug fix for bugs that happened before we've changed scanning. So, reiterating. Mission deadlines and payments being able to handle wormholes and jump drives. NPCs being able to trigger actions. Logbook showing reputations, or bug fix to scanning ships. Sog says, I know I'm super late, but what was the reason behind the Orfecta being only a ring world thing and not on any Korg world? I think it was because further down in the conversation, it says that you're on a ring world. So the conversation expects that you're on a ring world. Maybe the question then is, well, why wouldn't you get this reaction from landing on any world? And then we could maybe change that. Doom says, personally, I don't think logbook reputations is a good change. I'm not convinced it makes sense for you to know them in universe. And I think the main use case for knowing player reputation is going to be the reputation abuse exploit. Hector says, how many wormholes do we even have? I'm sure it's fine. Referring to allowing missions to have payments and deadlines across wormholes. Well, the thing is, we don't do it right now because we can't do it right now. So it's not a question of how many wormholes are there, where this would be useful. It's more a question of how much would we use this to do a thing we cannot do right now, if this were added. Now, mind you, I'm not saying, like, pick one, we're closing the others. I'm just asking, which one do you think we should prioritize right now? Hector says, I'm not super stoked about any of these, to be honest, and also, displaying reputation seems like a good thing to display for users. Revert it. To be fair, Doom brings up a fairly good point, referring to the logbook. Doom says, we have a lot of missions running through the high wormhole, which are all working right around not being able to do this. I think it'd be sensible to actually support doing it properly. Sog says, agree with Doom. I mean, we could also close one. If somebody's like, hey, we should close the logbook one, we can talk about that. George says, how likely is High Reveal to be rewritten before 0.11 anyway? What's 0.11? I don't know when 0.11 is. Just merge one, close the rest. No. Close the rest. Close one and merge the rest. A sacrifice. Close logbook reputation and merge the others? Question mark. Hey, we need to discuss them now. I mean, if we close logbook, I mean, I was looking at this yesterday and I was also kind of leaning toward closing it, to be honest. But then we could look at one of the other ones. Logbook is the biggest one here. Warp says, I suggest you review them instead of blindly slapping the merge button at least. What, do you think I was just going to merge them and not look at them? When have I ever done that? Warp says, close the issue as well then, I would. Doom says, if we have in-game reputation displays, I think it should be something like hostile, suspicious, friendly, infatuated, or something rather than just showing you a number. Oh! Keep in mind, I did say this is an outdated screenshot. You would not see the number, you would see a string. You would see these. First it says, we have required reputation for planets and stuff, and as I hear, it's a number to some string conversion, which can be vague. I'd like to know if my Republic reputation is okay rather than, or properly very good. James says, that sounds more reasonable then. I mean, the reason I'm not entirely sure on this is the fact that, well, we already have the reputation scale on the map. Anyone who you would need to like actually care about your reputation with, you're going to have a planet on the. They're going to own a planet on the map that you can look at, or a system on the map that you can look at. Ferocious says, don't like these reputation titles. Would rather define them myself. I'm talking about the concept though. Maybe we change the titles. But what about the concept? Hector says that should probably be different per faction, referring to the titles.
I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Azure says, what if I want to know and my reputation with Drac, in parentheses hostile too, or Republic that's friendly entering wormhole friendly. or that doesn't enter wormhole friendly. Doom says, I'm much less opposed to the concept if it's something like this rather than giving you the number. Nazareth says, yes, referring to the titles. So different titles for different factions. Azure says, seriously, look at governments.txt after I reveal. Yeah, we're chopping most of those down. I'm killing governments wherever possible. Down with the government. Yes. Alright, but what is the distinction though between having these titles and just looking at the map? To see what your reputation is. Because the map has a color scale, this would be a title scale. Hector says, conceptually, I don't think there's much to gain but telling the player what their reputation is with a specific government. The only issue, or the only times it would really matter is with restricted planets or with rep exploits. Azure says maybe we remove the map color scale and replace it with, I don't know, star sprites or something. How about now? We're not gonna remove information from the map and then put it somewhere more obscure for the sake of having star sprites. Doom says merchant that has entered wormhole in the past, but is now ambivalent about entering wormholes, but would probably still enter wormholes if you put them up to it. Azure says we should remove system names too. Okay, now you're just going too far. Now you're just too wacky. Hector says replace all sprites with star sprites. That'd be a very confusing game. Turn everything into Tohu. Okay, here's a scrolling down. Here's an image with the titles. I don't know why this isn't in the OP, but okay. Sucks. It's endless stars. They never end. Sure says that feel when I rewrote star sprites from scratch but was too lazy to make the pull request write up. I'm sitting in an unpublished branch, but I'm too lazy to actually pull request it. Keep it that way. Hector says, but yeah, I'm not sure what the gain from this pull request would be other than making the rep exploit easier. Yeah, I'm convinced to close it. Because getting back to something I said recently on Discord, Gotta ask questions about certain mechanics. Do we really need this? What do we gain? What would we lose by not having it? I don't think we gain much. I don't think we lose anything by not having it, so it doesn't seem necessary. Therefore, we kill it. Villain mode. Being able to see your reputation with governments in your logbook seems very redundant. Or seems entirely redundant, let's say. With the reputation map key. What are the governments that we are most likely to allow to appear in the logbook? Well, it's those governments that also have systems that we can check our reputation with. The only scenario where I can imagine this might be useful is for when you've dominated all of human space. Because doesn't the green replace the blue to red scale? I don't dominate much, to be honest. I haven't in a while, so somebody remind me of that. When you dominate a planet, it swaps to green when in the reputation scale key map. Therefore, you can't know what your reputation is with the government if you've conquered all of their planets. But if you've conquered all of their planets, I think you can pretty well know that they don't like you. Doom says, I mean, I suppose it's the very minor thing where if you've dominated all of the faction systems, you can't see your rep with them. But at that point, you can safely assume you're probably not a big fan of you. That's what I just said. Hector says, yes, I believe that's correct. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm not trying to help people who are dominating the entire galaxy. The only scenario I can imagine this would be useful is for when you dominate all of human space, at which point these systems show as green for dominated instead of showing the reputation for the system But I don't think that's exactly a playstyle that we need to make easier. Because if you've dominated all of human space, then you also have a fleet big enough to defend against any smaller hostile random fleet spawns. Azure says, add a mission that instantly kills you if you dominate too many planets or red farm. Alright, so close that. And pop off this. And go to here. And close as not planned. Yeah, look at this back in 2015 too. In terms of practical gaming use, it's good to know whether my reputation with the Quark is high enough to probably let me plunder one of their ships without turning them properly hostile. You shouldn't know that, though. You shouldn't know that, though. That's the thing. Alright. One more. I want to do this one. I choose. You chose, now I chose. Call this, says Hector. Azure says, when you hail the Quark and ask them if they like you enough to let you do it, do a little trolling. Yo, am I good? No. Alright. NPCs. Dot in place, child. It now takes the name of the mission when you are loading an NPC. Mission action. When we're loading a mission action, we determine if it's an NPC action. Do not support this syntax for NPC actions since they are created after it was deprecated. Is NPC action when you are looking for an outfit. Unsupported use of outfit inside an NPC action. Is this necessary? What happens otherwise? What's the harm in allowing this to be done? Hypothetically, if I were to attack you and disable your ship and kill all of you and take your ship, do you think your friends would be mad enough to kill me over it? Hector says, I don't understand what this pull request does, to be honest. The one I'm looking at now, it does some great stuff. This is a fun one. Do I need to go to the issue that I opened about this? Allow NPCs to trigger actions on status changes. It is currently possible to trigger a conversation or dialogue after an NPC's objectives have been completed. So, for example, NPC kill, then you give it a dialogue or conversation. The above dialogue will appear once this NPC has been killed. But what if we want to do something other than just create a conversation or dialogue after the objective was met? At best, we can hijack a conversation to use its apply node to set conditions when an objective is complete. So NPC, some set of objectives, conversation, apply, set some conditions, and then have a conversation. This can be useful, but forces us to use conversations, and limits us to only changing conditions, at least until 5152 is merged. Only changing conditions. Unless this gets a bit freaky, oh yeah. This also confines us to the objectives of the NPC. What if instead we wanted to have an NPC trigger some event if it became disabled, but have the objective be to scan it? Well, then we're out of luck. So my solution is allow the creation of on-star blocks within an NPC that trigger some action after a certain condition related to the NPC has been met. This is an extension of adding the 2-star blocks to NPCs from that other another issue that had already been resolved. Triggers that I can think of: on spawn or despawn trigger when these actions, or trigger these actions when the NPC is either spawn or despawn, an extension of to spawn and to despawn. On, kill, board, disable, assist, scan cargo, scan outfits. Triggers on the completion of individual objectives, whether these objectives are completed for the NPC or not. I expect that these would only trigger on the first instance of the objective being completed. For example, multiple scans wouldn't continually trigger this block. I've omitted save, evade, and the company since those aren't objectives that trigger in flight, and adding them would basically just be redundant with the on complete of whatever mission spawned the NPC. And on loss is basically a negation of save. That is, if a ship in this NPC block is destroyed, this block triggers. Differentiated from kill, and the kill requires all the ships to be destroyed. I'd also imagine this to only trigger on the first loss, although I can also imagine it being helpful to trigger on each loss. I'm going to put more triggers if people discuss them below. Then we had some discussions here, and like, oh, here's all the things we could possibly do. I'm not looking for all of them in an initial pull request. I'm just looking for the base. Yeah, Warpcore says I didn't actually do on spawn or despawn. That's fine. That's fine to me. Warp says there's no real harm. Then I would say remove it. Doesn't seem like there's any actual harm done in allowing this action to be used on an NPC. So I'd just remove this warning to reduce the overhead. No need to have that. I'm going to make these comments, and Warp's going to make the changes as I'm here. So yeah, like, this is the only change being made to mission action. Like, mission actions should not be changing, I would think, because of this. Like, maybe... Yeah, no. Okay, NPC now includes mission action. I get the mission name. An on block. Int event equals blah, blah, blah. If event is equal to jump, arrow jump is not supported, event for mission actions. If event is none, error invalid ship event. Otherwise, place back. Alright. So I can understand disallowing jump and none. I mean, none is just saying, hey, we don't recognize this. So yeah, that's not even like a support thing. Then whatever else it is, we in place back the event type. And then create a new mission action based on this. The mission name and true, which we can remove. Then actions is being renamed to ship actions. Okay, I see. Let's see down here. Yeah, ship actions, NPC actions, just to differentiate what is meant by each. We have new ship events, it looks like. Or more new definitions of them. Are these not... Hold on. Okay, I see. So the ship events are defined here as to what their numerical value is, and this is mapping them to strings so that we can use them up here as the mission action name. Type to string and type from string. Alright, alright. important. Ship actions. So anywhere it was actions is renamed to ship actions. That's nothing too crazy. They're just swapping names out. We're saving out all NPC actions. That's code that's already done, so it should be fine. These 3 lines is the actual meat and potatoes of it. Okay. For every NPC action, if the action that was just taken against the ship matches the event type of the NPC action, trigger it. My only question then is that will these repeat? Or no? Wolfie asks, how do I do wealthy transport missions? Do I need a specific outfit? Yes, you need a luxury accommodations outfit. There are also some missions where you need a brig outfit. It used to be that those missions just would not, or those jobs just would not show up on the job board if you didn't have those outfits present. Now they appear, you just can't accept them without the outfit. So you can at least know they exist. But you just need to figure out that a specific outfit is needed. The descriptions do kind of hint to it, but it doesn't say outright, hey, you need this outfit. Well, so some of them definitely will repeat. Probably, or maybe not. Stuff like disable can probably repeat if you repair and disable, then re-repair and re-disable. Alright. I'd rather... I don't know. I mean, it's almost inconsequential, because I would like to support both repeating actions and non-repeating actions, which then just becomes a question of what do we want our first implementation to be, and then how do we implement the other version. Although I almost feel like we would want it to be non-repeating first, because mission actions are normally non-repeating. Actually, that's a lie. On visit is a repeating action. So sometimes it's context dependent. We can leave them as repeating for now. Hector says, I'm sure it's fine to merge it now, and 6 years later when we want to use this for something, we can revisit the implementation if it is needed. 6 years, dude? I'm going to use this immediately. I am using this as soon as I find a use for it. When I say find a use for it, I mean I already know what my uses are. Yeah, look at this. Related... yeah, this one can get closed. This is one that people have asked for. Actually, no, there's a different one. There's 2 that we could close. Yeah, he linked it. There was another one, though. Oh, what was it? I think it was the complete anywhere behavior. Although this wouldn't technically give you complete anywhere behavior, but what it would do is allow us to let bounty missions complete anywhere. Like, effectively complete anywhere. You fail the mission when the NPC is killed, but we also give you the payment at the same time. Hector says, okay, 5 years then. I mean, it's something we could do. I don't know if we will, but... I mean, something I've talked about is conditions are the bread and butter of this game. When it comes to making things react to you or creating interesting missions, it is all in the conditions. So if we have a new way to trigger conditions or a new way to read conditions during certain scenarios, that usually just opens up like a bunch of new stuff to do. Hector says, Wanderers can immediately turn hostile upon killing Arfectus? Yes. You could do stuff like that. Immediate. On kill, or on maybe even on disable, Wanderer reputation minus 1,000. Right there and then. In flight. Whereas before you could not. Although, it's kind of inconsequential now because they are, they will defend the Arfectas. But let's say you disable one and, like, leave the system. Well, they're going to be angry the next system over now. If we did something like that. I don't know. Do I need to test this? I almost feel like I don't even need to test this. Like, it's not really that out there of a change. Like, if actions was not renamed to ship actions, there'd be even less stuff being done here. It's really just, you can now define on star blocks that are mission actions, and then we read the ship event that we get and match it to a mission action. That's it. Some of the rest of the stuff is like window dressing. Wolfie says, I just slapped the luxury accommodations on my flagship. Now my rich, high passengers can now watch me massacre their unfettered brethren in style. Hector says, if you test it, you might find a bug that would prevent you from merging it. If you don't test it, there's no chance of you finding any bugs with it. So you're saying don't test it. It's not a problem if I don't see it. Then it never just fucking looks at what I want it to look at. Cool story, bro. Can I get it by... If I refresh the page, usually that helps. There we go. Hector says, I'm sure we can make our players test for us. That's all AAA games do. For sure, for sure. Thumbs one. Alright, well... Jim says, enough people playing continuous that any bugs will be spotted before the release, at least as long as we don't make any big additions just before the release. Well, how many people are going to be playing with these action notes just right off the bat? Warp says we should make them pay to test it. Looks like there's changes here. Terran, get to this stuff. Early access closed beta, question mark? Perhaps. I guess these aren't getting uploaded to YouTube. I hit export on this one at the start, And it's not on YouTube. So I guess Hector's going to be our YouTube uploader. Hector says I can keep uploading them. I'm fine with it. He's like, I can get that AdSense. Alright, go ahead. Alright. Let me refresh this one up. See if we are good on this end. So the issue here was that we had redundant definitions. If remove reputation, max, mint. Flushed. Yeah, this is looking better now. Doctor says, "Ah, yes, give me your 3/10 of a cent. I'll be rich in no time." I guess I'll just delete this channel then. My channel was also named Endless Sky Stream Archive. Hope this doesn't fuck anything up by deleting this. I have 2 other YouTube accounts on the same email. The hell, it still exists. Whatever. I guess I just have that now. All right. Two things. We can simplify some of this. Constring grand key equals grand dot token 0. Bool has grand value equals grand dot size greater than equal to same thing up here. First, it says, unrelated, do we have any support for territorial behavior in systems? Like, if I'm chilling on top of a bunch of void sprites, they, for example, turn hostile after some amount of time. No, we do not. We do not. It just says, make it follow void sprites. Or timer shit, make it follow void sprites and have a long-range weapon it will fire at you and eventually kill itself with. Definitely not hacky. Nah, not at all, not at all. Alright, well, I think we're going to end it there. I'll follow up on these two. And do some extra testing. Just to make sure they're good. Probably knock those out later today. And hopefully, Cornier gets to this one. He did say he looked at it. Looked at my comment and said he'd fix it. So that's 3 pull quests there. Why are there new ones? That would get us down. We're at 147. Oh boy. Let's get us down to 144. We'll back up to 160 in no time. Hi, says Zog. Hi. Your opinion is requested. What about... I don't know why you're talking about debating this. I talked about this yesterday. Yes, split the governments. Yes, they should have one-to-one relationships with one another. But what splitting governments lets us do is have, for example, only the Korath Quard care about the Korath. Or only the Gegno Quard care about the Gegno. Sure, they could talk to each other. Be like, hey, this guy's a bit of a dick. He fucked up with the Gegno. But the other Quag should honestly be like, you know what, I don't care, there's no Gegno here for me to mess with. So. Heck, just close more. Give me more to close. Vivid Aether, no. I don't want to deal with that right now. So what have we done in the past 2 days? 8 pull quests merged, and some number close. How many did we close? I don't know. Let me check. Let's sort by recently updated. Look at closed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14. We closed 14 in the past 2 days. Along with the 8 that were merged. Curious. I have to just close it so you don't have to deal with it. Ferocious says, ah yes, the 2-word change that summons many people with access to grinds. So I'll just close it and just say no. Oh, no, I do not think I will. Alright. I'm wrapping it up. I think we will continue this grind next weekend. I'll provide a time as we grow closer. But we're not stopping here. Sock says, what kind of villain arc is this? Shaking my head, the villain of the villain arc. You know what? We can be a bit more villainous than just closing and saying no. High reveal next weekend? I do want to start on that. But I also want to continue with a lot of these pool quests. So we'll see where I feel my energy is needed. Still have 10 pool quests in my tabs. Alright, but as always, thank you for coming, thank you for being in chat, thank you for providing feedback, and talking about how we should close things. Hector says, looking at some of Unordered Science 26 pull quests might be nice. Sucks it. Oh no, you said her name. Becomes 3 more pull requests. Oh. I don't know. I mean, the problem is a lot of them, from what I've seen, are like, oh hey, here's this massively complex system I'm looking to add to the game, and it's like, let me try that 10 times. It's like, that's not how this works. It's not gonna have a good time trying to do that. Or if I close all 26, we beat the lowest we've ever bet in months, in years even. We do a little shit posting. As I said, more to come next week. I don't know if I'll stream both days next weekend. Probably only one. And it will be maybe more closer to this size than yesterday's 7-hour. But what things can change. Things can change. Plans can change. So we'll see. Doom says, I will not be making any more pull quests for the foreseeable future. Good. That's what I like to hear. When we're on the villain arc, that's what I like to hear. Keep the number of new pull quests to a minimum. So that we can finally get through this backlog. Honestly, I at the very least want to get through. Actually, speaking of unordered, what are the dates on these? If I go back to, what are the dates on these? Jeez, a whole page worth. I kind of want to just not even worry about anything that's from this year. So there's 1, Two. Two from 2022. All the rest are this year from Unloaded. So that's probably not going to get too much focus. Like, all the ones that I have in my tabs right now, these are all older than this year. Because, as I actually pointed out, like 60% of our open pull requests are from this year. It's kind of crazy. Hector says, I will download and upload the stream to YouTube, same as the last time. Alright, cool. I'll have that happen. But, in any case, I will see you all next time. Adios.